community center wasn't big enough to hold everyone who showed up to the first meeting. There were literally people standing outside. So that's why we're really grateful to Santa Fe Community College. They're letting us use this space and providing all the infrastructure so that it can be streamed, etc. They have great Wi-Fi. So thank you for making the trip here. This is all very important to you all, as I know, and I'll speak a little bit more on that in a minute. But I do want to give those who are trying to get here right after work and get into the building. Shall we start? Yep. All right. My bell? You want to ring your bell? All right, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm Camila Bustamante, County Commissioner, District 3. It is my honor, a privilege to be here. I am sorry that it is under these conditions that we're all meeting like this. I look out into this audience and I see neighbors and I see family. And that means the world to me. We are all here out of respect for ourselves, our homes, our quality of life, and in the bigger picture for each other. So I'm going to introduce our facilitator, Rosemary Romero. If you've worked with Rosemary Romero before, she has facilitated very difficult discussions around environmental justice, around the mines up in northern New Mexico, and now PFAS in our community. So I'm very grateful to have Rosemary with us today. There are going to be some very specific rules that we're going to follow as far as making sure that we stay calm, because I'm going to be very honest with you. As a resident, as an ancestral resident of La Cienega, it's hard to stay calm on this issue, right? Yeah. Right? I can honestly, and there is a place sometimes when people say, I know how you feel, and you kind of look at them and go, no, actually, you couldn't possibly. And I'm going to say I'm one step away from La Cieneguilla. But I'm going to say seriously, those are my cousins. I'm looking at my uncle right now. I am looking at my uncle right now, and he's in La Cieneguilla. So this is incredibly personal, and it hurts. But we are here out of love for community, out of respect for our homes, con respeto y permiso, with respect and permission. We are here together to find solutions, answers to our questions that we have about something that has now basically, in some cases, feels like it invaded our homes, right? It feels like it's a place where I should be safe and comfortable, but I just found out it's not. It may not be. I don't know what the outcomes will be, right? You feeling that? Yeah, we are. We are. So, as residents of the La Cieneguilla and La Cienega area, many of us are there because we have long family heritage there. Our family has been either growing food or running cattle, or in my case of my family, had sheep. I have goats because I heard that sheep cry when you separate them from the parent. Turns out goats do too, but never mind. But when you tell us that our water now has an issue, it's not just in our home, now it's possibly also in our food, right? And I'm looking at my neighbors here who I know who have cattle. And that's a scary thought. What does this mean to us? So we're going to learn a little bit about that. We're farmers, we're ranchers. In some cases, we're people who just wanted to move away from the city, right? We enjoy our rural way of life, and it has encroached on our community. For all the reasons that we live in La Cieneguilla and La Cienega, the answer here tonight is that knowledge is power, and that we have people who are here because they are sincerely and legitimately concerned for your well-being, for our well-being, for the well-being of your families, and for the well-being of future generations. I say that sincerely, and I say that with trust. Con respeto y permiso, with respect and permission. We are all here together to have this conversation. We've heard that our homes are supposed to be safe for us, and we've also heard that water is life. And right now, when we put that tie together for water is life, it's another part of a very difficult conversation, because potentially that life source could possibly harm us, and we don't know enough about it. And again, the questions that have been submitted in advance with opportunities for follow-up, will help us start to inform ourselves so that we can take better care of ourselves, so that we can have the knowledge and the power to ensure that our homes feel safe again. This is long overdue. This is long overdue for our communities because as Santa Fe has grown, the industrialization has moved into our area. This isn't new. And I'm waiting for someone to correct me. It could be John Dupuy, who is incredibly knowledgeable on the water and the wastewater treatment facility. But it was 1966, if I'm wrong, then maybe I got it off a little bit, when the wastewater treatment facility was put off of Paseo Rael. And the Rio de Cacafeses, the Santa Fe River, was something that we couldn't play in anymore. And everything tended to go south, right? Now, the hard part of that conversation is that, like most environmental justice issues, our communities, Hispanics, Native Americans, minority populations, are disproportionately affected by these actions. It has happened all over this country, and right now in our world, La Cieneguilla and La Cienega are no different. I am sorry to say that I have heard mayors say I am not the mayor of La Cieneguilla, and that's okay. They're not the mayor of La Cieneguilla, but it's not okay to not take care of the people downstream. It's traditional communities, it's people who care about the land, about our water, about where we are. It's tribal communities downstream, and we want to make sure they're protected. So working together, we're going to bring the needed resources and know that I am and the county is working towards a resolution towards better security for our homes. And I can say that confidently. I am so proud. I could not possibly thank Santa Fe County enough for the way it stepped forward in bringing together the panel who can answer these questions. Santa Fe County did not contribute to the PFAS into this water. Santa Fe County, as your utility, as your representation, will assure and work with you every step of the way that we do what we can to find solutions and get us closer to home security. Again, this is my ancestral community. I'm not going anywhere. So we need to see this cleaned up. This current issue of contamination and addressing this need for protecting our community, La Cieneguilla, La Cienega, La Bajada, and our tribal neighbors, and in many cases our tribal cousins, have seen this pattern of industrialization that has disproportionately affected us. To the families impacted by the reporting of elevated PFAS in your well water, we're here to answer many of the questions sent in and to continue to provide additional and ongoing information. I'm promising you that here today. The community, the La Cienega Valley Association, which is the community, the CO, the community organization that is registered with Santa Fe County, is the ongoing mechanism where we will work with to have regular community meetings. And at the end of this conversation, we will actually have the what next steps. And the next thing is to assure you that community will continue to meet and be shared with in the information that we get as we move forward. So thank you all for being here. I say this sincerely to you, my neighbors, my family. Knowledge is power. We are here out of love and respect for each other in our homes. Sincerely. And with respect to the individuals who are going to answer our questions, I'll go ahead and hand the mic.
The county, the city, anybody. So if you don't mind, I'll just start with you. Yep. Oh, why don't you pass the mic? That'd be good.
Hello, Xochitl Campos Biggs with Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez.
Good evening, Matt Miller with Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez.
Ali Lakes with Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez.
Santa Fe County Commissioner Anna Hansen, District 2.
Anyone else?
My name is Anya Romero. I'm the State Director for Senator Ben Ray Lujan.
Good evening. My name is Eric Chavez. I'm a field representative for Senator Ben Ray Lujan's Santa Fe office.
Great. Oh, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carmela Quintana. I'm also a field representative with Senator Ben Ray Lujan in the Santa Fe office.
Carmela, thank you.
I'm Rita O'Connell. I'm with Martin Heinrich's office in the Santa Fe office as well.
Thank you for projecting. I didn't have to get the mic to you. I appreciate that.
I'm Andrea La Cruz Crawford. I'm on the New Mexico Acequia Commission. I'm one of the commissioners, and I'm also the La Cienega Valley Association president.
Thank you.
Thank you, Santa Fe County Commissioner, District 5.
Excellent. Commissioner Green?
Good evening, everybody. Justin Green, Santa Fe County Commission, District 1.
And I saw Senator Stefanik somewhere. She left? She's gone. Okay, anybody else? Anybody running? Oh, I'm kidding. Sorry about that. I think that's it. I'm going to make up a little bit of time. Excuse me. A couple of things are that we asked and we got 101 questions. Shelley will talk about a little bit about that process, but we synthesized them. Some of them were duplicates. But it was amazing to us to read through the questions and realizing that a lot of these questions need a lot of thoughtfulness. And oftentimes when I've facilitated meetings, you're hearing them the questions pop up, but then you'll hear somebody on a panel say, I can't answer that. I'm going to have to get back to you on it. And we are going to have to figure out that getting back to you. But we took the questions and we think we got the most relevant ones or harder to answer ones that had multiple parts to them. So the panel had a little bit of time to synthesize it and get their ideas together because they were complicated. So that's the process. It's not going to be the pop-up questions. The purpose of tonight is to really listen, and you're going to hear your questions come out as I read them to the panel. So with that, just a quick logistical thing, because I don't know if folks know this college really well. I used to work here a long time ago, and I love this school, but sometimes you get lost. There's two sets of restrooms that are down the hall and to the right, and then on the other side of the dining area, there's another set. There's no water in this room, so there are plenty of fountains, so help yourself out there. I thought that there was going to be a cafeteria open, so I brought no water, so you're going to hear me all night long. All right, Shelley, did I miss anything? I think we've got a presentation. So we are also live. Let me say that I think we're up and running, correct? And this is being broadcast on YouTube. So that's the other way that folks can see and hear this, and it'll be recorded also so that folks can replay it at different times. All right. Anything from the panel? We're going to go ahead and get started. And then I'm going to ask you when I turn to you with the questions, and we're going to rotate the questions a little bit. You'll introduce yourself at that point and talk about what your role is in this effort. So I'm not going to go right to that now to each of you. I'm going to have you do it as part of your presentation. And you'll keep that succinct if you could, please. All right? So Shelley, I'm going to turn to you for your presentation. Do you need a mic? I do. Okay.
Hello. It's so great to see how many people are here. I'm Shelley Moeller. I am under contract with Santa Fe County to assist with communication and getting information to all of you about the issue that we're discussing here tonight. So the way I wanted to start this tonight is just to set the context, just to talk a little bit about what PFAS is, what it stands for, what are the contamination, like why PFAS contamination of our air, water, and bodies is a concern. I want to present an overview about the sources of PFAS contamination and exposure pathways. And I want to provide an overview of the scope of PFAS contamination on a national and local level. This is very broad. It's not specific. It's not scientific. I just want to set the groundwork so we're all going to hear the answers and discussion from our panel with just a little bit of backup information about what we're talking about. So those are the objectives of the presentation tonight. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. And you all may know all of this, and a lot of you probably already do, but I'm going to start from the basics of what is PFAS. It stands for poor and polyfluoroalkyl substances. PFAS are human-made chemicals. They're used in industry and consumer products and have been since the 1940s. So the PFAS have been around for a really long time. There are nearly 15,000 kinds of PFAS, of these substances, of these compounds. There's about 15,000 PFAS chemicals found in many different consumer, commercial, and industrial products. Some examples are fast food packaging, cleaning products like waxes and polishes and dishwashing rinse aids, clothing like water-resistant jackets, stain-resistant carpet, and a lot of other substances that are used to prevent or block grease, oil, and water. Due to the widespread use of PFAS and the fact that they bioaccumulate, which means they stay in the environment for a really long time, they do not break down easily. And because of that, they are found in our bodies and animals and soils and water. So why are we concerned about PFAS? So research and epidemiological evidence suggests that there are associations between increased exposure of PFAS and certain health effects. So examples of some of the proven health associations with exposure to PFAS and a health impact are increases cholesterol levels, changes in liver enzymes, a decrease in birth weight, lower antibody response to some vaccines, pregnancy-induced hypertension and preeclampsia, kidney and testicular cancer. The research to really understand the harms of PFAS on our human bodies is ongoing, and there needs to be a lot more of it. But what I've shown you here today, and in the parentheses are the types of PFAS that have been associated with these health outcomes. And I'm sorry, the projection of what I created and what's coming on the screen is off, so I apologize for that. And I have to take a sip of water, so just a sec.
Oh, it's a BYOB.
Yeah.
Or BYOW, bring your own water.
Okay. So with all of this, what's really important to understand is that not everybody who is exposed to PFAS will have an adverse health outcome because of that. It really, the risk of health effects associated with PFAS depends a lot on exposure factors. So that is the dose. How much have you been exposed to PFAS? How frequent? How often? The route. So, are you consuming it through water every day? Are you eating it occasionally from a food product, like fish who have been swimming in contaminated water? Or, and then duration. So are you exposed all the time, every day, or is it an occasional exposure from going somewhere where you drink water that is contaminated with PFAS? Or do you work somewhere where you are in a manufacturing factory and you're exposed every day? All of those things are going to impact whether or not you have an adverse health outcome from being exposed to these substances, to these compounds. Okay. So now I just want to talk about sources of PFAS pollution that we know about now. There are three main sources: manufactured products, industrial discharges, and the military. In the military, it's, the way I put it up here, it sounds odd, but I'll explain what I mean when I just say the military. So let's back up, talk about manufactured products. So what all three of these really are how PFAS is getting into our environment, which then eventually is impacting people's health. So manufactured products, these are any products that are produced using labor, machinery, tools, and biological or chemical processing or formulation. So these are just products that have manufactured products. Examples of some of the products that have historically contained PFAS, which I've listed some already. Non-stick pans, Teflon is an example. Electronics, fast food packaging. Another one that's not here is the microwave popcorn bags. Carpets, cosmetics, nail polish. Honestly, I really encourage you on your own to do some of your independent research. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of information out there in a lot of different languages. So this is just an overview. Another source of PFAS pollution is industrial discharges. This is the act of introducing or depositing wastes from any non-domestic source into a public sewer, a private sewer, or a side sewer tributary. So this is a manufacturing plant who's dumping their waste directly into some water, a river, a sewer, and over and over and over again it accumulates in the water, and that's the source of the pollution. And then finally, the military has historically used firefighting foam, which I'm sure a lot of you have already heard about, containing PFAS during emergencies, putting out fires, and training exercises. But I will share that some of the highest levels of PFAS ever detected in groundwater are found around military bases. So it's a big one. Okay. So I just wanted to show this visual because it had an impact on me. When I looked at this, I thought of wow. The EPA does estimate that 80% of our exposure to PFAS comes from sources other than drinking water. And so when I read that, I did a little bit more searching and reading, and then I found this visual. So I just wanted to share it, and I'm going to let you all look at it while I take another sip of water. So I want to say that it's not every nail polish, it's not every brand of toilet paper, every brand of dental floss, but these are products that we use in our everyday life that have, some brands have PFAS in them. Okay, pathways. So how does this stuff get into our bodies? First of all, near all people have had exposure to PFAS in the US. So PFAS can get into our bodies when we drink water from PFAS-contaminated municipal sources or private wells. These are just examples, by the way, that's not comprehensive. If we eat fish caught from water contaminated by PFAS, if we eat foods packaged in materials that contain the compounds, if we swallow or breathe in contaminated soil or dust, if we swallow residue or dust from consumer products containing PFAS, such as stain-resistant carpets, or water repellent clothing. So these are examples of how the exposure pathways, the pathways that these chemicals come into our bodies. And I just want to mention children and people who work around PFAS because they may have a slightly higher risk of exposure. And the reason for children is that children may be more likely to get PFAS into their body because they tend to chew on toys, fabrics, playing around the ground, putting their hands in their mouth all the time with some of these chemicals on the products that they're playing with or chewing on or wherever they're playing outdoors. They may also be exposed through formula made with PFAS-contaminated water. And then people who work in places that involve the making or processing of PFAS and PFAS-containing materials are more likely to be exposed than the general population because they are around it every day when they're working. Some occupations that are known to be exposed through their work are chemical manufacturing workers, firefighters, and ski wax technicians. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Okay, so now I'm going to move on and just give you, this is a very big, broad overview, but I really wanted to just do this visually to talk about the level of PFAS contamination on a national level. I mean, it is in a lot of places in our country. This map here show more than 5,000 contamination sites or locations where PFAS have contaminated either the environment or the drinking water sources. In 50 states, the District of Columbia, and 4 territories, which I just couldn't manage to get on here, but you know, the light blue dots here are where they have been found in drinking water above the proposed limit. The darker, kind of black-looking dark blue is where it's in drinking water below the proposed limit. The purple is military sites, and then orange is just other sites, of which there are just a few. So you can really see the clustering as well. And you can get on this. Here's the source, and we can get this presentation to you. And you can click on these dots and you can actually read what it is where it actually is happening and what it is. Is it drinking water? Is it the soil? What is it? So this is the national level. And then just, you know, again, briefly, let's look at what's happening here in New Mexico. So Bernalillo County, they have found groundwater contamination from firefighting foam used on Kirtland Air Force Base, which is basically Albuquerque. Curry County, groundwater contamination from firefighting foam used on Cannon Air Force Base. And maybe some of you have read about or heard about the dairy farmer there that had to euthanize approximately 3,600 of his cows because they were contaminated and their milk was contaminated. And they actually found out about this, and we have Environment Department people here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but they discovered, I think it was Cannon Air Force Base in 2018, and then he had to throw away all the milk from his cows for a couple of years before they could figure out what to do with them, and eventually they were euthanized. And if you got the FAQs, there's a link on there, and you can watch a video about this with that farmer, that dairy farmer telling his story. Doña Ana County, down in the southern part of the state, there's been contamination found in the water distribution system in White Sands Missile Range from firefighting foam. There's also been PFAS levels above the advised limit in the Doña Ana Mutual Domestic Water Consumers Association. It's not the city of Las Cruces, but it's a community in the county. And the town of Anthony drinking water system, which is right on the border with Texas. Lee County, the community of Hobbs, have PFAS detected above proposed limit in the Hobbs municipal water supply. And the data on there was as recent as 2023. and Otero County, which is where the Holloman Air Force Base is, groundwater contamination from firefighting foam from the Air Force Base. And there's recently a story out about the extremely high levels of PFAS found in nearly 24 bird and mammal species at a lake near the Air Force Base. And that's a recent story that, if you're interested, it's easy to find by Googling that. And then here we come to Santa Fe County. So currently under investigation to really understand and characterize the contamination that has been found here in Santa Fe County. There is known soil and groundwater contamination at the Army National Guard Aviation Support Facility and water from some of the wells in La Cienega and La Cieneguilla, as you all know. So that's why we're here tonight. That ends the presentation, but I want to say a couple of things, and then I'm going to pass it back over to Rosemary, and we'll get into our question and answer discussion. A couple of people have asked me about, I need to just take another sip of water really quick. Anyway, I've gotten a lot of questions about helping people interpret their results from having their well water tested. Andy Yocums, who works with the New Mexico Environment Department Drinking Water Bureau, will help you interpret your results. I have a few name cards. There's not very many, but there's a few on the table over here to the left. If you got a FAQ sheet, his contact information is on there. And if you didn't get either of those things, contact Andrea or your commissioner, Bustamante, and I will make sure they have Andy's information. But if you want to just Google it, you can Google the Drinking Water Bureau, and his contact information is right on there. And let's see. So the Department of Health, there were questions that came in that were about the health impacts of PFAS exposure. And we couldn't, the representative from the Environmental Health Bureau with the Department of Health could not be here tonight. And actually there weren't a ton of questions, there was probably about 12, but we want to make sure you get those answered. And so we are going to follow up on that and get those answers to you. In the meantime, if you have any more questions about that or anything, there's a sheet over here, several sheets. If you put your name and your email and your question on that sheet, we will get it answered and get it back to you. So, and the final thing is there's also a sheet over there to sign up to get information through the La Cienega Valley Association. So get your name and your email there, and then you can continue to get information that way. I'm sending Andrea a lot of and anytime I get something, the FAQs, translated stuff in Spanish, I send it to her, and she sends it out. So you're not going to get spam. You're going to get relevant information. So if you're not already signed up, I encourage you to sign up, and that sign-up sheet's over here on the left table. Okay, I think that's it for me. So thank you.
Thank you. You've been really patient, and I'm going to get the questions going with the panelists. Let me say that we also talked earlier, and you'll mention this, or somebody will mention this at the end, where there's next steps, is there's a lot of information that's going to be generated. When I hear Shelley say, sign up here, get this, the frequently asked questions, we're hoping that there's going to be a couple of repositories where all of the data gets consolidated, and that's really typical of these kinds of complicated processes. And libraries are the logical places to keep them, maybe the south side, and these are suggestions, maybe the south side, maybe here, but stay tuned where the logistics are going to come out about where this kind of information can be easily accessed. I've used like Dropbox, but that gets too complicated with agencies. So with that, let's, I mentioned earlier for folks who didn't get here on time or were looking for seats, we had 101 questions, and they're complicated questions. The panelists are going to answer these questions. They've had time to prepare, which is really great that you've had that opportunity to prepare. Kevin Senlak from the National Army Guard, I think, he got stuck in Chicago, bummer, right? He got snowed in, but we've got our other staff here who'll be able to answer questions. So I'm going to rotate the questions so it's not boring. And if they got a short question, lucky them, I'll pick on them again. So I'm going to start with the National Guard folks, the New Mexico National Guard. I think you're first on the list. So and you'll do the arm wrestle on who goes first. So I'm going to read the questions, and if I've said them too quickly, say, get my attention and I'll repeat it, but I'm happy to repeat them anyway. So what is the role of the New Mexico Army National Guard in addressing the PFAS issue in Santa Fe County? And if you'd introduce yourself, your role in the process, and then jump into the answering the question, I'd appreciate that.
I'm Lauren Deacon. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff.
Oh, well, let's see. Let's try this one. There you go. Thank you.
I'm Lauren Deacon.
Is there staff here that can turn the mic up? I'll hand you my mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
I'm Lauren Deacon. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff. Deputy Chief
There
of
you go.
Staff for Installations and Environment for the New Mexico Army National Guard. The New Mexico Army National Guard is not the contract owner for the remediation efforts going on. It is a national level effort from National Guard Bureau. And that's what Mr. Kevin Sedlak is the project manager, and unfortunately he is not here. But we provide our personnel to support for access or to observe activities of the contractor doing things like drilling and sampling and provide and any other additional support, consolidating stuff to send to National Guard Bureau for them to answer. We don't own the contract. We do not direct the contractor.
Okay. All right. Another question, just because I think that one's a shorter one. So is this PFAS contamination ongoing?
So at present, any of the PFAS containing compounds have been removed at the AASF. The fire truck was a possible source of contamination that was removed in 2005. And there were what are called Trimax fire extinguishers, which are for putting out aircraft fires. They're portable fire extinguishers. Those were also removed in the mid-2000s. So there has not been anything contributing to PFAS at the AASF for about 19, 20 years.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next set of questions, and I think somebody else will be able to answer this. What is the role of the Army National Guard, DOD, in addressing the PFAS issue in Santa Fe County, and what is the time frame and process for remediation of PFAS contamination from that facility?
Okay, this would be a Mr. Sedlak question, so I will attempt to answer it. The Army National Guard at the national level is going through hundreds of sites, going through the CERCLA process to do site investigations to determine if there is contamination. That has already happened in Santa Fe. They did a preliminary assessment, and then they did a site investigation, and they found contamination at the AASF. We are moving on to what is called the remedial investigation phase, where we try to ascertain the extensive contamination and if there is a plume, and if so, is it migrating? That is the next step.
Okay.
And that could take from 3 to 6 years. It depends on the extent.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn to John Dupuis, please.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, and you'll keep the mic close to your chin.
Thank you, Rosemary. My name is John Dupuis. I'm the City of Santa Fe's public. Better?
That's better.
All right. I'm John Dupuis, the City of Santa Fe's Public Utilities Director. I manage the Water, Wastewater, and Environmental Services divisions.
It's the mics. Let's try this one. And if all else fails, I'll give you mine. I got a fancy one.
I like it.
And I'm going to share.
Is this better?
I also have another one here. If you want it.
These work really well. Let's go with those. And we'll just pass them around. We're passing the cooties now.
Is this better?
Yep, much better. Thank you.
And it's not bad. It's lightweight. So my name is John Dupuy. I'm the Public Works or Public Utilities Director for the City of Santa Fe. And just remind me, Rosemary, we're going to read off the question so that others are familiar.
Let me read the question to you, unless you want to read it, but mine will project better. So your question is, what is the role of the City of Santa Fe in addressing PFAS in our community?
So I view my role largely as to listen, first off, because often the priorities of the community help drive how we take action and understand those concerns. So we've participated in the community meetings in La Cienega and La Cieneguilla to ultimately help understand those concerns. We understand it's very serious and we take it seriously as well. And additionally, to collaborate with those interested, like the Santa Fe County, the community members, NMED, any other partners we can bring to the table for funding, et cetera, to help develop solutions for those concerns. And ultimately, address and identify the problems with the resources we have available.
John, I'm going to give you one more question, since it'll be tougher to pass the mic around. Has the treated effluent water from the Paseo Real wastewater treatment facility been tested for PFAS before it is released into the lower Santa Fe River? If so, when was it tested and what were the levels? If not, when will it be tested and how will it be tested and how will the results be provided to the public?
Yes, we have tested, and we have single-digit values in the influent and lower values in the effluent. So knowing what that is developed with the understanding that we have met with our regulators to understand that this will be a requirement in the future, and there's testing protocols being developed. So we're trying to understand that further to know what is the right testing to do, but develop a testing plan for moving forward prior to it being a requirement. And with subsequent education and outreach to reduce the amount in the influent, that's a current focus of mine. I appreciate the slide that you had up with the home and the different sources. That's something that we want to be able to do, because that's been done in the past, is to remove as much coming into the plant so that any treatment that's necessary ultimately doesn't have to have as difficult a time.
Great. All right. Could you pass the mic this way, please? All right. I'm going to make this a little bit faster. This is NMED. It will present, again, introducing yourself, your role in this process. So your question is, what is the role of NMED in addressing PFAS in our community?
Good afternoon again. Am I on? Can everyone hear me?
You'll have to keep it close.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Good afternoon, and again, I'm very sorry that we have to meet in these sort of circumstances. Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, and again, I'm very sorry that we have to meet in these types of circumstances. My name is Aaron Kaufman. I'm the Compliance Technical Assistance Program Manager for the Environment Department's Hazardous Waste Bureau Compliance Technical Assistance Program. My normal role is my program conducts inspections of various different facilities, the different Air Force bases, the different national labs, myriad different types of businesses to look for how they're handling their hazardous wastes and making sure that they're disposing of them appropriately. In this matter, NMED's role is identifying the responsible parties for the contamination and making sure that we hold them to account for that contamination, make sure that they perform the necessary steps to clean up that contamination.
Great. I think the second question, I'm going to give you two, it's going to flow into that. Are those responsible for PFAS contamination going to be held accountable to clean up this contamination and provide quality water to the residents?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yep. Are those responsible for PFAS, so I guess the keyword is responsible for PFAS contamination, going to be held accountable to clean up this contamination and provide quality water to the residents?
I think it's important, first off, to preface that NMED is currently in the investigative phase of this. There has been some identified contamination in a perched aquifer zone, but we have not yet made that connection to the contamination that's currently in your wells.
All right, thank you.
But in terms of the second part, are those responsible going to be held to be responsible? That is, the answer to that is yes. We're currently in the investigative phase, But that is the function of the Environment Department, making sure that we've ensured that these facilities, once we identify the responsible parties, will conduct the cleanup.
Great. All right. Greg, I'm going to turn to you. A couple of county questions and introduce yourself, please. Thank you for that. And Greg, hold it up close. We are working with staff to turn up the mics. Mine works fine, doesn't it?
Okay, can everyone hear me all right?
I'm special. Okay.
My name is Greg Schaefer. I'm the Santa Fe County Manager. Hadn't planned to be on this panel tonight, so I want to thank the folks who work for me for delegating up so that I'd have the opportunity to spend some time with you. See, it's not a skill that I mastered because I let one of my bosses escape before I could pass responsibility on to her. But Santa Fe County has a few different roles that we're endeavoring to try and play relative to PFAS. First, we are attempting to spearhead communication, public awareness, and outreach effort, which includes organizing this town hall this evening. In addition, Santa Fe County sought and is in the process of receiving a grant subsidy from the New Mexico Environment Department to investigate, model, and plan for PFAS and other contaminants. We are also in the process of developing a comprehensive home rehabilitation. I'm sorry, can you hear me still all right?
I'm going to try one more, Greg. Let's try this one.
How is this?
Oh, excellent.
All right. In addition, it relates to PFAS well testing and potential water treatment for low-income and moderate-income individuals. But again, it's not its sole focus. Is the county staff is preparing a comprehensive home rehabilitation and energy efficiency program pursuant to the Affordable Housing Act. This will allow the county to provide grant subsidies and potential loans to low and moderate income individuals to address a variety of infrastructure needs.
Could we close I know it gets hot in here, but could we close a couple of these doors because it's echoing back in here? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll endeavor to keep going, and again, let me know if I'm not projecting or if the microphone is not working well enough. We hope to bring that affordable housing program forward to the Board of County Commissioners in April, and if adopted, implemented as soon as possible thereafter. In addition, Santa Fe County will be working with the community to develop a water and hopefully a wastewater master plan for the area. This would be a building block for any future infrastructure that the county may build and supply to the community in terms of water and wastewater infrastructure.
So Greg, that second question about can the County of Santa Fe create a well testing program that is indigency based or done on a sliding scale using the funding provided by NMED for testing?
So the county intends to use, per the grant language, the NMED grant to investigate, model, and plan for PFAS and other contaminants. Testing of well water from private wells has always been an intention in order to facilitate that investigation and modeling. Ultimately, I don't believe it's fair to anticipate that every single well will have water tested from it. Instead, wells will be chosen for water testing in order to meet the needs of the investigation and modeling. Separate and apart from that, as I mentioned, the county is developing a comprehensive home remediation and energy efficiency program for low to moderate income individuals. And we believe that that will be another avenue through which domestic well water supplies can be tested and, as applicable, treatment solutions provided. Again, that would not be specific to this area, but would be a program that would be available countywide.
Great, thank you for that. I'm going to turn to the National Guard folks. There's a couple of questions, and you can divvy them up and pass that mic down, please. who and what is responsible for all the pollutants in our drinking and stormwater on our properties that are causing health issues? That might be a harder one to answer.
At this time, we don't know.
Okay.
And that is why we are going through the remedial investigation portion of this to determine where, Lauren Deacon again? I did the first time.
Yeah, the first time. Go ahead.
So that's why we're doing the remedial investigation too, as Mr. Kaufman said, try to identify any and all contributors to this problem.
Great. And then another question is, what level, rate, and pattern is PFAS spreading? Do you know that one?
We don't know that at this time. The site investigation, that shows the level of contamination, and I believe
Thank you,
this
Shelley.
is soil testing.
Yep, it's in
So-
several places.
Anything that is highlighted yellow exceeds the proposed screening levels from EPA. This is soil testing. Go to the water one, because that's what everybody's concerned about. That's soil, groundwater. These are the two wells that had it, and they are over in this area. And that is, as Mr. Kaufman said, that is in a perched layer of water. And over here, we did two deeper wells that we believe are in the regional aquifer, and they did not have detection there.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask if, Mr. Deacon, if you could just explain what they're looking at. So, like, this is the airport. Yeah, if you can just
So
explain them. And
this is the original aviation hangar built back in 1976.
All right, I'll try and mimic you.
Well, and to be absolutely fair, folks should know is this was actually Kevin's slide, and so it's we can't blow it up any more than what it is. But let's see if we can explain a little bit more of the information that you're looking at, and this will be made available to folks as well.
So there's a.
Bring up this. So these are all a bunch of soil tests and well tests. This one and this one, this well here and this well here, had contamination between 70 and 85 and 117 feet deep. And those exceeded the screening level that DOD adopted. These wells here were approximately 185 feet, and there was no detection in those wells. So the remedial investigation will focus on here and try to determine if there is a connection into the regional aquifer or not, and the extent of it. We're going to continue the investigation there. At this time, we don't know anything beyond what we have here.
Shelley, you want to add a few things?
So this is just our site. The airport is actually over here. And so we're over here, and this is where Santa Fe Police has a lot of their vehicles. Wastewater treatment plant is up off the top of the map.
Thank you. Shelley, do you want to add anything? Mike?
I just want to let you all know that you can find this full report with, all these diagrams. I'm not even going to pretend that the first time I looked at it, I was like, I can't understand this. But if you really do take your time, and that's why I wanted it to be shown here today, so now you have a little bit of an understanding about what this is showing you. And you can go back and you can read the details. There's a legend here, and it's all very well defined in that report. And it's online, and it's on the Santa Fe County PFAS webpage. You can just Google that, and there's a link right there, and you can go right to it.
Great. I saw people taking pictures of it with their phones, too. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Next question. I'm going to turn to the city of Santa Fe on this one. Sorry, John. We'll hand you another mic close to it. And then you reintroduce yourself because folks don't know.
My name is John Dupuy from the
Thank
city
you.
of Santa Fe.
If PFAS levels are being tested at the Paseo Real wastewater treatment facility, why not? And could they be potential sources of PFAS?
Just because I've written a few responses, what number was that?
17.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're struggling with the internal college system here. Let's see. We can get you another one. Let's try them. musical mics.
Is this better?
Yep. Okay, we'll use that one more often, and we'll deep six that one. If that's not a good one, I can go to the next one. You.
No, that's a great question.
Okay.
That's exactly what I wrote. This is an important question. And by collaborating with the plan the county develops, we can efficiently participate to understand and address ensuring the water resources of our community are protected for our future generations.
Great. Another question, John. Have any chemicals containing PFAS ever been used to treat the effluent from the Paseo Real wastewater treatment plant?
I can say a confident no.
No.
But I will caveat it. I have found that that's not anything I should ever be as overly confident. So to the extent that it is known that PFAS is within any product, we have no products known to contain PFAS for the treatment at the plant.
And let's pass the mic down this way. I'm going to keep us moving. Who can help residents interpret well and blood testing results? And I think Shelley gave some information on that earlier, but I'll turn that one to you.
And I don't want to neglect my colleague, who's also with the Environment Department, Justin Ball, who's with our Groundwater Quality Bureau as well, too, that he may be useful for some of these questions, as he's very intimately involved with this process. But in terms for this question, that would be actually an answer best given by Department of Health, unfortunately.
Yes, and just so folks know, we don't have Department of Health here today, so we are getting responses to those questions that came to us. And are directed at the Department of Health. We are having them answer those questions. So they're not here for medical reasons, but we will get them to answer those questions. But do you want to answer any of these? And I apologize for not handing you the mic earlier. I waited till you started coughing.
Good evening. My name is Justin Ball. I'm the Bureau Chief of the Groundwater Quality Bureau. Thank you all for coming. It's lovely to see you all. Can you hear me in the back?
And keep it close.
Yes, ma'am. So to follow up on that question, so I think there was some blood interpretations. That's definitely a Department of Health question. As far as interpreting the water data, we mentioned Andy Yoakum. Also in the flyer in the packet, there is an email address that's on there in the the PFAS program. It's a general email address, but I'm pretty sure that and I think Andy is probably involved in monitoring that, and so that's a good way to contact us.
Thank you, and hang on to that mic. There is known PFAS contamination in private wells. What will be done in the short term to help residents who have positive PFAS results in their well water get access to clean and safe water for drinking, cooking, and livestock? And Greg, you might also pinch hit on this one.
So to answer the question, this is the flyer that we have produced for information for that question.
Okay. Great. Greg, do you want to add anything about the county? Just reiterate again, the county's got a program they're going to be working with?
As I indicated, county staff is preparing to bring forward to the Board of County Commissioners for consideration a home rehabilitation program for low to moderate income individuals. It will enable individuals, we anticipate, to address water treatment needs, again, in the low to moderate income space, as well as other needs of such homeowners to include energy efficiency repairs, roofing repairs, what have you. So that will be brought forward to the Board of County Commissioners, we hope, in the month of April.
Thank you. This is an NMED question. Is the surface water and groundwater safe?
In Justin Ball, we would require source-specific samples. The general rule is that the data will decide. We need data to make good judgments about all those instances. NMED does not have irrigation and agricultural specific standards or guidance levels for PFAS compounds.
Okay. Greg, I've got one for you. Will Santa Fe County commit to creating a task force with the entities on this panel that will work with the public to address this and allow for continued dialogue with residents on a monthly basis? If so, where and when will those meetings occur? And that also might be in.
Greg Schaefer, Santa Fe County Manager. The county is committed to public outreach and education, as well as to collaborating with the various stakeholders who have a role to play in this. For example, the county and the city are in the process of negotiating a memorandum of agreement to collaborate with regard to the PFAS investigation and modeling. In addition, I know that the National Guard has likewise committed to working with the stakeholders as they go through their remediation investigation. We have tentatively identified the third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. for follow-up dialogue at the La Cienega Community Center, and we will continue to invite stakeholders to participate in those meetings, and we'll gauge the frequency as things move forward. And finally, we are committed to continuing to update our education and outreach materials and making them available both through the La Cienega Valley Association as well as our own county website.
Thank you. And we're going to pass the mic all the way down, please. All right. Is the storm water and the surface water that is ponding on the corner of Paseo Real and Camino Torcido that is flowing through our neighborhoods being tested for contamination to include PFAS? And that's probably on the map. That may not be a question for you all.
No, that intersection is quite a ways from our facility.
All right, I'm going to go to a next question. And this one was also one that was on the map. Let me skip a couple of them that were, they're all on the map. So what do we know about where PFAS is in the water table?
Again, it's the two wells that showed yellow on the map.
Yep.
And that's where there was detection of PFAS containing material.
And I'm realizing that a lot of the questions that were here were Kevin's affiliated with that map. So
yes.
All right. So let's come back to, I'm going to do an NMED question. How does PFAS get into effluent?
So there are a multitude of sources of PFAS, since PFAS compounds are in everyday products, as we saw the graphs earlier. So all human, and I've been waiting to say this word, excreta, contains some level of PFAS when they use the restroom, which then ends up in the wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant does not have the treatment technology to remove the incoming PFAS. And so it ends up in the effluent. Studies suggest that the majority of the long-chain PFAS compounds accumulate in the sludge. And so if you could put the map up.
Shelley, can we get the map? Yes. Sludge, my favorite. Okay.
I've learned so many things in this job. So the wastewater treatment plant does a lot of things, and I'm not going to pretend I know a lot of that. But part of their waste has in the past been disposed of in the on the edges of the airport. I will call it the airport because it's a lot of different things. But some of that sludge has been disposed of by injection into the shallow subsurface.
Okay. Let me give John that mic.
Thank you, sir.
So John, there's a couple that be prepared for that answering that question, but the question that relates to that is, we understand that the city is planning to replace the Paseo Real wastewater treatment plant with a new facility at some point soon. What types of wastewater treatment systems exist, and would any of them be able to filter or remove PFAS from effluent? And would the city be willing to install a system that would filter out PFAS?
My name is John Dupuy from City of Santa Fe. Reverse osmosis and other filter media look promising, and ultimately the information related to the effectiveness of those treatment processes is constantly being updated. This is a national problem, and there
lot of great minds that we will listen to and make sure that we understand before we implement any solutions, so that we know that those solutions don't create additional problems to the extent known. But even with the sludge having accumulation of PFAS, we've looked at pyrolysis as a solution, so heating it up to a high temperature, that also has problems, and putting it in the air to some extent. Recent research has shown that. So, and then even having that show up in the river down gradient in adjacent rivers to the places that have pyrolysis. So I want to be ultra cautious in anything that we implement to ensure that we're not creating a subsequent problem.
So John, can you answer the question about, I know it's an unknown about the timeline for replacement of that wastewater facility, but any ideas about what how it's moving?
It kind of plays into another question, which was related to regulation. I think it's 20, EPA adopting standards. So we have met with EPA Region 6 to discuss this specifically in our upcoming permit renewal, and anticipate that there will be testing requirements, and then in the subsequent renewal, there will be a standard that will be implemented. So we are anticipating having to deal with anything that is in the effluent and the discharge from the plant, and removing any PFAS to a certain level. And ideally, if we can reduce what's coming in, it would minimize the effects and ultimately less potential for problems.
So John, is there any indication that sometime in the future there'll be a replacement of that facility? Is that?
There is.
Yeah. Any additional thoughts on that?
Well, we did just get some funding from the state, so I'm overly grateful, and we're going to make sure to develop the plan with timelines and use the money as meaningfully as possible, as soon as possible.
Great, thank you for that. I'm going to go to NMED. Our understanding is that New Mexico has been pushing for EPA standards to be adopted pertaining to PFAS. Can you explain where the EPA is at that process?
Again, my name is Aaron Kaufman. I work in the Hazardous Waste Bureau as the Compliance Technical Assistance Program Manager. Yes, EPA has issued the draft rules. We expect them to be adopted in fall of 2024. It kind of dovetails as well with the next question, if I can move on to that. If you want to ask that.
Let me ask the question, I'm sorry. I was still on the take. How do EPA regulations of PFAS or the adoption of regulatory standards at the federal level impact NMED's role in enforcement of those standards at the state level?
So there's two sides of this question, of the answer to this question. First off, that we support the EPA's adoption of the drinking water standards. We believe it will be helpful for us in our petition to the Water Quality Control Commission for adopt strict PFAS standards in that regard. And also, too, on the side that's more close to my lane as well, too, that it will be helpful for us with listing PFAS as hazardous constituents to help to clarify some of the authority that EPA has already said that we have in this matter, to make sure that we can ensure that there's going to be cleanup of this and ensure that we are properly involved in the cleanup.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to go back to National Guard folks. Let's hand that mic down. What methods exist for, and if we got them wrong in how we delegated the to whom, we could pass it on, is, I'm going to number 9 is, what do we know about where the PFAS is in the water table? And then what methods exist for remediating PFAS in a water supply? So it's those two together.
So back to question 9 on the map, the 2 yellow tags are in the perched water table. Lauren Deacon, New Mexico Army National Guard. That is in the perched water table, which is about 70 feet above the wells that did not have any detection. You can remove PFAS from water with granulated activated charcoal, and reverse osmosis are possible ways to remove it from drinking water.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, I'm going to... So the question is around, what do we know about where the PFAS is in the water table? And are we looking at the map?
So the PFAS in the water, the perch water is the 2 yellow tagged wells.
And what is perch water?
Okay, that's water above what we believe is a regional aquifer.
Okay. You want to add something?
I was going to jump in. I'm a
Yeah.
hydrogeologist by training. And so imagine, we talk about the water table. The water table is the first water. So in certain areas of the state, you can take a post hole digger and dig down and you can encounter water. That is groundwater. Typically it's near surface water, right? And right in the sand, in the, like on the beach when you're building a sandcastle. Doesn't that sound like a nice idea? So the concept of a perched water table is that there is groundwater flows downhill and it will infiltrate into the ground, and at some point it can intercept a really thick clay material that would prevent the water from flowing down, right? And it will accumulate. If it's isolated, then that's what we would call a perched aquifer, and that's what is shown in these two wells. I wanted to point out that the color guide here doesn't help you know the depth of the wells at this location. So we pointed out that these two wells were in the regional aquifer. Now, this little arrow here is showing where they think groundwater is moving. So it's going downhill. If these two locations are where the PFAS is at these levels, then we need a deeper well in this area to have a better idea of where it's going. So that's a data gap.
And are these more shallow, these ones here, are they shallow?
Yeah, so the perched would be higher up,
Okay.
relative to the regional aquifer down below. And in this case, I think 130 versus 170 below ground surface.
All right, that's helpful, thank you. Let me go to, John, I'm going to put you on the spot again. Will the city be testing the soil along the lower Santa Fe River for PFAS or other contaminants as part of the lower Santa Fe River planning process?
John DeFuy from the city of Santa Fe. No, not as part of the lower Santa Fe River planning process, but the community, if through that process they identify this as a desired priority, which I'm assuming the answer is yes. Just looking at the room and the prior meetings I've been to, I think that's overwhelmingly clear. We will shift our focus to be responsive as a partner in this process and subsequent processes together with Santa Fe County.
Excellent, thank you. And then, John, since I've got you, and it relates to what is the impact of PFAS to the Buckman direct diversion?
Currently, testing confirms that we do not have PFAS at the Buckman direct diversion, but we will continue to monitor to make sure that stays the scenario.
Great, thank you. All right, to Greg, who is directly working with the New Mexico Environment Department on a concrete resolution, and who will get the word out to the community as soon as help is on its way, especially with health concerns and illnesses illnesses it causes.
Greg Schaefer, Santa Fe County Manager. As been apparent through the discussion tonight, NMED has a variety of roles that it's playing relative to this issue. I can only speak with regard to the grant-funded activity that NMED will be working with the county on, and Santa Fe County will be working directly with NMED with regard to those activities. And we will share the results of the modeling, investigation, and planning that comes out of those grant-funded activities with the public, that is Santa Fe County. With regard to the anticipated home rehabilitation program that I mentioned for low to moderate income individuals, that'll be a county-sponsored program, and we will take the lead on educating the community about that and what it entails. Finally, not directly related to NMED, I believe the Army National Guard will be working with the county, NMED, and other stakeholders, and that their process includes a community involvement plan to make sure that the community is informed along the way of its activities.
Great, thank you. And let's pass that mic down to the National Guard folks. I'm going to go to question number 14, which I think is a more complicated one. The La Cienega Mutual Domestic Water Association, LVMWA, serves over 150 water connections and hundreds of community residences. The LCMWA's main production well is within 100 feet of the airport property, and from the studies, it would seem as though there's contaminant plume migrating that may affect the LCMDWA's main production well. Is there a contamination plume migrating? And John, you might want to also add to this. I'm not sure. Go ahead.
Lauren Deacon, New Mexico Army National Guard. That is why we are going through the remedial investigation to determine if there is a plume migrating off of our site and to what extent it is going.
Okay. Keep the mic.
Okay.
The Santa Fe Airport is very close to the Air National Guard location. Is the Santa Fe Airport being investigated for the same PFAS contamination? And if no, why not?
I cannot answer for the airport. We are working with the airport, and they have been part of the meetings with the stakeholders for our process.
Okay. So, John, this may be one that in the future there may be additional departments that get involved just because the questions could be more relevant to their work. Just food for thought. Okay. Hang on to that mic, one more. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I turned the page and those questions are on this next page. So let me put Greg on the spot for those, and thank you for that. Greg, are there plans to provide or extend county water to La Cienega and La Cienega area? And if so, what is the timeline? There's another affiliated question to answer yours, but Greg, if you could do this one.
So right now, the county is beginning with the community a water and, as I indicated, hopefully a wastewater master planning process, which will identify potential infrastructure extensions. We anticipate, because some of that is being funded by state grant money, that the outside date for that master planning to be completed would be June 30 of 2025. And
yeah. Well, hold on. Go ahead, Greg.
well, that's okay. I appreciate that nothing can be done quickly enough given the circumstances, but planning for infrastructure does take time, and designing that infrastructure and constructing it, again, doesn't happen overnight. I wish I had different news with regard to that. Ultimately, county water, however, is not free, and folks who elect to connect or are required to connect under existing land use restrictions, there are a variety of costs that do come with that, both upfront cost in terms of connection fees as well as ongoing water usage charges. So in the interim, I think that point of entry treatment systems at the individual homeowner level or point of use treatment systems are going to be a much more expedient and cost-effective option.
Yep. Hang on, Greg. I think there's more questions from the county side. Will the county be looking at the impact of things like septic systems on water quality, and specifically whether septic systems contain PFAS or other contaminants that may be affecting the quality of our water supply? And I think that went with the other one.
Greg Schaefer, again, Santa Fe County Manager. We'll be working with NMED to refine the specific work to be done as part of the PFAS investigation and modeling. Our expectation is that any plausible source of PFAS will be included in that, and certainly septic systems are a possible source of PFAS contamination for the same reasons that were discussed earlier. If it's in the influent it's going to be in the effluent. And so if it is going into your water in your home and into your septic, it is a potential source of PFAS contamination of groundwater, depending upon all of the other factors relative to where your septic is located, what the relative level is of the aquifer and water table. So it is something that we will be considering as part of that investigation and modeling work.
Greg, one more on this one is, can the county provide, and maybe this relates to some of the questions that were shouted out, can the county provide PFAS filters to homes that have been affected by the PFAS with the grant that the state of New Mexico has provided of $459,000 to support those families in La Cienega that were affected? And I think it was sort of answered before.
I don't believe that the grant would allow for that. The grant is specific to investigation, modeling, and planning, and so I don't believe that would be a permissible use. I've alluded to it several times. The county is endeavoring to create a program to help low and moderate income individuals with treatment solutions, and so that's how we're trying to address this need, not only in this community, but countywide.
And it's not on this list, Greg, but Greg, let me ask the question. It had been asked earlier, maybe in a different setting, but sometimes the state has emergency. They can issue a state of emergency for water that needs to be given to communities, similar to what happened up in Cuesta. Is that anywhere being discussed of emergency water supplies to particularly La Cienega? Maybe it goes on the list of questions, but I know that came up somewhere in a discussion.
Greg Schaefer, Santa Fe County Manager. If you're talking about a state-issued declaration of emergency, that's really a question that would be better answered by state officials.
Folks. NMED folks, and maybe, let's pass the mic down. Thank you.
Hello? Okay. So one of the questions was, could we work to obtain an emergency declaration for health and safety so that the wells can all be tested using state funds? If so, what
let me read the question out loud.
Thank you.
Could we work to obtain an emergency declaration for health and safety so that the wells can all be tested using state funds? If so, would that be done on a county, state, or federal level?
Right. So emergency declarations originate at the county level and are qualified based on funds expended. The county and the New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management should coordinate to determine if this situation qualifies for an emergency declaration.
So it'd be at the county level to work with the state and the federal government to declare the emergency? I'm trying to understand how that works.
I believe so.
Okay. That's not quite what I think folks were asking, but I think there's some movement in possibilities of solutions that could help.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Couple more. So, and this relates to that one, Greg, is what is the anti-donation clause and why is it preventing the county from using state funds? And I think you answered this earlier, but just to reiterate it is, again, what is this anti-donation clause and why is it preventing the county from using state funds to test water wells?
Greg Schaefer, Santa Fe County Manager. I'm just a recovering attorney at this point, so I don't know that I'm qualified to answer this question. But the anti-donation clause is an article in the New Mexico State Constitution. With exceptions, it generally prohibits the state or local governments from providing direct assistance to private parties. Relative to the NMED grant, that actually is federal funding, so the anti-donation clause would not apply. As I indicated previously, certainly some well water testing is inevitably will be part of that investigation and modeling activity as we work with NMED and the selected contractor to move that forward. I also have mentioned several times the program that the county is developing independent of all of this. That is an exception to the anti-donation clause, the Affordable Housing Act, and that's the way that we're going to try and support low to moderate income individuals.
All right. We're trying to figure out, there's a couple more questions. What is that? I think there's a couple more. I hesitate to throw out things that you've not prepared for, but there was a couple of other questions that might be easier to answer. And it was around that emergency declaration of health and safety. Let me see if I've got a couple more. Are there any conversations going on right now about testing residents for PFAS in their bodies? Anybody can answer that one? Yeah, well, let me apologize. That was a Department of Health one that I thought was going to be relevant to this group, and they're not here to answer the question, and I don't think anybody here wants to take that one on, right? No. Yeah, we had a slew of questions for the Department of Health, and they had medical emergencies and couldn't be here, so all of the questions I thought would be really important for you all, we don't have anybody to answer those questions. So do you want to add anything else, Camilla? You haven't had a chance to speak on any of these.
No, specifically, though, I do want to say that we have had questions about the insurance being able to cover the blood testing, which we found that insurance will not cover it. So I'm really sorry that we don't have the Department of Health here tonight, but we will assure that they will be present at the next meeting with the La Cienega Valley Association at the community center and with Shelley to get those questions answered and how we can support people in getting the blood tests.
Thank you. It's hard to hear back there.
The question was, can we get the governor to show up?
Oh.
And I don't know the answer to that one. I do want to ask specifically, and I don't know if the National Guard would have this as much as NMED would have it, but the governor's involvement on the base out in Curry County. If you can share, what was the involvement there? They had higher levels in the thousands of parts per trillion, and to what degree was the governor and state of emergency implemented at that place?
Justin Ball, Groundwater Quality Bureau of NMED. I was not involved in that. I don't have personal knowledge, and I feel uncomfortable speaking off the cuff on that issue. Yes.
Yeah. So let's pass the mic down. Anything that you want folks in the room to know from your perspective and the work you're doing that hasn't been asked, would you like to say something? And again, introduce yourself. And then
Sure. Hi, I'm Hank Manichres. I'm the Public Affairs Director for the National Guard. Not as book smart as Mr. Deacon on this type of thing, but I've been sort of the point of contact with several of the meetings that we've had before to coordinate our cooperation and cross-coordination with our fellow agencies here. We remain committed. We can't wait to work with you on this. As Mr. Deacon has said, and the answer to a lot of the questions is we don't know because we need further testing. We've tested our 2 sites there on the map, but we would like to do further testing around the radius of that property. We're not the only tenants there. Our friends at NMED have said, we don't know yet if there's a connection between what we've located there and what's in your wells. Further testing required. So when it comes to any information that we discover as we continue our testing, we will absolutely work with these folks, show up at these third Thursday of the month meetings at La Cienega, be present, answer questions, present information if we have new information, and above all, just continue to be transparent. We get it. We have guardsmen who live with you, work with you. We work here too. We're just as concerned, and we just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and working collaboratively versus county doing something, city doing something, guard doing something. That makes no sense. So the fact that we're all at the same table together, I think, is a step in the right direction.
Great. Thank you.
Lauren Deacon, New Mexico Army National Guard. As was alluded to earlier, we will be publishing and probably at the Southside Library all the documentation associated with our investigation. So it will be a ton of paperwork and it'll be freely accessible to anybody that is interested. And once that is established, we will make sure to let you all know through either the county or the city.
Go ahead. Hold on, they're each going to finish any questions. I'm hoping that they're going to be able to answer anything or anything that you want to relay to the group.
Justin Ball, NMED, Groundwater Quality Bureau. So I just want to give the idea of, we talked about the AFFF, the aqueous firefighting foam. I think of that as a source, right? The concentrations of that is quite high, and that's why we've seen high concentrations at the Cannon Air Force Base. That's not what we have now in this particular location. It needs to be investigated. We need additional information, but there's not a lot of similarity based on the data that we currently have. If you have, as an individual on a private well, you have the capability to take steps to protect yourself, to clean the water, with the information that we provided, and that will give you, if you choose to do that, will give you a certain amount of calm, and it's the thing you can do.
Yep.
So, thus ends the end of my free advice.
Commissioner?
I will be doing some closing next step statements, but I think what's important to just reiterate, and I'm again grateful for the role that the county has taken. The county has not been the source of this PFAS, but the county can and will be the source for helping identify any funding that can help assist residents. So as we go, and that's a commitment, if we can find this, the county can be a vehicle for making sure that those who've been impacted have whatever resources may become available. But I do want to be clear that it's, and I don't think there's any question, it hasn't been the county that has created this. We're working with the community mechanisms, working directly through the Valley Association that has representatives in La Cieneguilla, as well as La Cienega, as well as on the La Cieneguilla land grant. I also want to call out, there's a gentleman in the room who's a former county commissioner, and that's Jose Varela Lopez. Jose Varela Lopez was in the paper a few days ago, and the important thing here is we will do whatever we can to get into the households and help people feel more comfortable. But Mr. Villegas, as well as the Bacas, and I thought that I understood that Phyllis Baca was going to be here this evening, and I'm calling her out. She's back there. Thank you, Phyllis. These are people who have generationally, for multiple generations, have been land-based people who have grazed cattle, have their farms, and the answers don't come quick for that. This is not something that will be satisfied very quickly. So I hope that all of us in working together recognize the magnitude for those individuals, but the opportunity for those of us who can take care of something in our household. So I say that because I did not recognize our commissioner, former commissioner, thank you, for being here, and those who have been land-based who are working this issue. There are options for those of us with our households. Okay, so I will be doing some next step statements, but I'm going to pass it on now to the county manager.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Greg Schaefer, Santa Fe County Manager. The only thing I want to make sure that folks are aware of in terms of a source of relatively cheap potable water is the county does have a bulk water station at our public safety complex off of 14 at Camino Justicio. It's not something you're going to fill up a 5-gallon jug of water, but if you have large containers that you may use to supply your house with drinking water, the cost is 1 cent per gallon. And you can set up an account through our utilities division. We'll make sure that that information is prominently displayed on our PFAS website, but I did want to make sure that you were aware of that opportunity to purchase water in bulk. It is potable water from the county's clean public utility water supplies. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a penny a gallon, is that what you said?
It is 1 cent a gallon. This is the same water that is delivered to county water customers. So if the question is it tested? Yes, it is in accordance with clean drinking water standards.
Thank you. Now,
PFAS is not currently a contaminant that requires testing. However, John can speak to testing that has been done with regard to the city and county water supplies.
Thanks, John.
John Dupuy, City of Santa Fe, Public Utilities Department. We do test the water that is in the pipes that goes to the bulk water station. Ultimately, the water system is connected, even though we think there's like dividing lines, it's the same water. The main supply is the Bugman Direct Diversion. We answered the question earlier. We do testing for PFAS. We have validated that it is not in the BDD and also continue to do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Once again, Aaron Kaufman with the Environment Department's Hazardous Waste Bureau Compliance Technical Assistance Program. I just want to end off with just letting everyone know that this is something that the Environment Department is keeping a close eye on. I'm working very closely with Justin and our other colleagues in the Groundwater Quality Bureau to make sure that we get the information that we do need, to make sure that we finalize, making sure that we have all of the responsible parties identified, and being able to move from there.
Great. There's a couple of commissioners. Oh, that's your mic. I've got my own. There's a couple of other commissioners, not to put you on the spot, but are there any things, you all represent rural communities. It's unfortunate this is in this commissioner's district, but any ideas or thoughts? Because you're going to be making decisions at some point in the near future on things to do. Do you want to comment on that? I'm not being the reporter on this, really.
So I'm Santa Fe County Commissioner Anna Hansen. I represent District 2, and part of this area is in my district. And I'm very concerned about it, and I have been working with Commissioner Bustamante on this issue because all of you are affected, and we want to be able to test and make sure that your water is clean and safe. And those of you who do have wells that have been tested, County Manager Schaefer has given you a solution, and I want to also thank you all for showing up, because that is really a great showing how much people care about what is happening here. And we want to be available, but we are not, Santa Fe County is not the source of this pollution.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, we're the ones here trying to provide solutions.
Thank you. Commissioner Green, I saw you. Do you want to add anything? Do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, we're not making any decisions.
We're not making decisions.
Just checking.
Just that this is not my district, but this is a concern of me, both in my district and as a county commissioner. We stand here to help both in the testing and the remediation, and in any way that we can to help with the solutions here. Up in my district, in the Powake Valley, there are other water quality issues that are somewhat maybe less related to PFAS. And so we're taking the actions there with a new water system there, and we're looking at all the different ways that we can do things for groundwater contamination. I think we may be looking at other ways to restrict PFAS from our marketplace. So we're looking at all the things. This is an emergent issue, and we're trying to learn about it as fast as we can, and we're here to help you as much as we can. Thank you.
Commissioner Hughes, were you back there? Did I miss you? Oh, there you are. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Hank Hughes, I'm chair of the commission and represent District 5, which also has the potential to be in the plume, so we're very interested in the results of the study. And I just want to say there's 4 commissioners here tonight, so when the county manager brings forward his ideas on what money we can use to help you, we're all going to vote for it. So thank you, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Closing. Next steps.
Next steps, if I can have that slide, it'll be helpful, but I think we've said a little bit about that. There will be a follow-up meetings on the 3rd Thursday of every month at the La Cienega Community Center. There is a sign-up. La Cienega is a very active community that is very involved in the issues that happen around it, and there is a sign-up for people who want to be on the subcommittee for this issue, as well as other issues like the firing range, etc. Again, as I mentioned before, some of the issues that affect us are very much environmental justice. We have things happening to us more than probably any other place in the county. And as much as I truly regret that this is in my district, it's apropos. I'm going to commit to you that the insight that I have, and I did the work for environmental science stuff at Los Alamos National Laboratory, looking at what was happening to community impacts, never knowing that this kind of issue was going to come up in my neighborhood. But I am grateful to be the one who has actually spent a little bit of time learning the details of these issues. Risk communication, risk management, are my forte. That's what I've done. And it's a tough one to swallow because there's no nice way to say that something has affected us. So yes, I regret that it's in our area, but it's apropos, it's here, and we're going to take care of it. It's not an easy one. I'm not going to pretend it's an easy one. The other thing for updates, we're going to go, we have the website. We'll have updates regularly. As these meetings go, if you have the same level of, I'm not going to invite anyone to have the same level of attention deficit disorder that I have, but sometimes it's coming in one ear and going out the other because it's a long night. Some of that information, not some of it, all of it that's relevant to what was discussed tonight will be posted at that website. So if you're like me, you're going to want to go back and see what was it they said about this. I'm concerned now. I mentioned at the very beginning of the conversation that my uncle was sitting back there, and as he's walking out, he said, I just needed to find someone to help me understand where I can get a place to get it tested and where the filtration systems are, and I'm not going to be able to read those readings. So I'm sorry that the Department of Health is here. I see a hand up is going to help read them, and I hope that'll be the case, but we'll have that conversation. But that's something that we're committed to doing. I'm hoping that we'll just have a targeted one of those third Thursday meetings that says, bring your results. Someone will be there to help you understand what's actually in your water. The LCVA listserv to register and provide your contact info, to be on that listserv is a powerful tool. You find out what's happening in the community, whether it's something relevant to you at that moment or not. And in this case, we found out there was a whole lot relevant to us, saying that as a former LCVA president, who I'm pretty sure people ignored my emails. Yeah. So this is something, not really, I think you listened. No. Yeah, I really don't think you did. But the bottom line is I wasn't there long enough to have to find out. Here we are, and I'm grateful for the activity that's happening to make sure that people are working together. Because the truth is, we are all here as one community family. Okay, we are all here working together. We are all here in each other's interest. And I'm going to hand this back to Rosemary because I see people who have comments that they want to make. Is there anything else that I left? Shelley, who I am absolutely grateful for. We cannot say enough. This is the person when we said somebody needs to be able to be present, have the answers. And the reason I want to, for those who will say, well, they made us submit our thing and we couldn't ask questions on the spot. That would have taken so much longer. And I'm grateful for your patience in how it was done because it allowed us to have a lot of questions answered in a shorter amount of time.
Thank you, Camilla.
And things will come up and there will be follow-up in that interest. But this venue, instead of people standing up and shouting out a question, the research has to be done, right? It's like, well, let's go back and find out what's actually going to happen under that circumstance. So we're absolutely grateful. And I see...
I'm going to hand it to Shelley.
So thank you very, very much.
We have questions. Yeah, I just want to encourage, I'm not going to take the questions. I'm going to give that to Rosemary. But as far as information for you all, related to if you plan to get your private well tested, if you haven't yet, well, you know, some of you, what I want to say is that make sure that you use a certified lab. And there's a list of certified labs. And if you go onto the Santa Fe County webpage, there's a
I know
button.
folks are leaving, but there's some important information to share.
There's a button there that says certified labs for well testing. Click on it and it's there. And there's some local ones. I know a lot of people from your community have used the same lab. Somebody comes out and they test it for you. But the point is to make sure it's certified so you're getting an accurate test. And yes, it's not going to be, $10. And if you're finding something that's $10, you're probably not going to get the correct results. So that was my message to you, is to use a certified lab. And then so if you go onto it's the Santa Fe County webpage. I should have brought it, but I didn't. It's right there. You can even just Google Santa Fe County PFAS webpage, and it's a button. It's very well labeled. And then there's also this sheet that keeps getting referenced. It's in the packets, and it gives you a lot of really good information about testing of your wells. And then if you're going to use some sort of filtration, you want to make sure that it is also a filtration system that is certified. You can look on here and it'll show you what the certification should look like. So you are getting a filtration system that's truly filtering out PFAS.
Okay.
So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
I'm going to check in quickly as folks are leaving from the congressional delegation. Yeah, I'll pass it to them, Shelley. Anything you want to add? I know, Matt, you were very involved in showing up at in the Mora San Miguel area for their horrific. Anything from the congressional folks you want to just add? I mean, I deeply appreciate that you all are here, listening really carefully so that it's got national level voices. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'll take one for the delegation, and you guys have to buy me lunch. No, no, but if Rita or anyone wants to come up, again, Ana Romero, State Director for Senator Ben Ray Lujan here in New Mexico.
Thank you.
So there is a key point that I did want to point out is that there was the bipartisan infrastructure bill that many of you have probably heard a lot about and have wondered what the heck does that mean. And so the bipartisan infrastructure bill allocated $19 million that came to New Mexico. That's at the New Mexico Environment Department, NMED, and that is solely for testing of PFAS. And so that's money that's coming. The only thing is that there is currently a bill right now on the Senate side that's been introduced by Senator King and Senator Collins that would allow a fix to that language to allow for that money to be allowed to test private wells.
Excellent.
And so I just wanted to share that with folks.
Well,
the money. Oh, no, I understand it, sir. I totally understand. The saying is, if the government says, I'm here to help, you should be concerned. I understand.
Yeah, hold on.
The other thing that the delegation is working on is currently right now we have what's called congressional directed spending. For those of you back in the day, it was called earmarks. This funding has now come back to Congress. And these dollars, we're working with the county to look at applying for some congressional directed spending that could be possibly utilized for this. This has just happened to take place now where the application process is happening. So we're working with the county on that. Also, the emergency declaration process. Unfortunately, due to the fires that have been happening up in northern New Mexico, all of our offices have become well acquainted with the process of doing an emergency declaration process. So it does have to start at the county level, and there is a process that has to be set forth. So we would be happy to work with you all. We do have existing bill language that we've shared with counties up north. And I think that is all. And then just, as a delegation, we're really on the 50,000 view level of working with local, with state, to bring all entities together. We have requested a meeting, and all of our teams have actually been attending all of the meetings. Nobody asked us to attend them. Our team, we're very fortunate that we have a very strong and we all work really well together in the delegation. So we've been attending all of these meetings. And we will continue to do so. And one thing that we've requested also is a sit down to really look at what are the resources available. So unfortunately, this isn't new for us as a delegation. We've been working on the issue that's been happening in Curry County, down in southern New Mexico. So we've asked our teams to pull together what are all of the mitigation resources, what's been happening. This is something where all of our teams here in the state and in DC are currently looking at. And so we'll have that sit-down meeting with the county to look at and pull together those resources. And I don't know if anyone else from the delegation.
Let me pass the mic right here. Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez's district director. I hope everyone can hear me. I do want to echo what Ane said. We are committed to this issue. The Congresswoman has been dedicated to this across the district for some time. She also supports the relief for farmers hit with the PFAS Act to create a grant program to help states address PFAS contamination on agricultural land and commercial farms. We are working on these issues, and we want to make sure that you have access to our office, that you know the people who are working on them, like Matt Miller. And you know, he's working with folks all across the delegation, and they're all here today. I want you to make sure that you take down our number so that when you do have concerns, you can reach out to us directly. Our number in our office is 505-428-4680, and we welcome you to call with your concerns. We want to be keeping track of these. We want to be able to answer them, and we want to be able to listen to you, especially on what we're doing at the congressional level. We do share this information because we like to be on the same page, so we're here.
Great. Thank you so much. Matt, do you want to? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Anybody else in the congressional delegation? Really deeply appreciate that you're here, and because it means that you really care. My experience has been, as you call and you get somebody to answer you. So show up, Matt. Okay. Oh. All right, so some of the next steps, Commissioner, you highlighted those next steps. It's been my experience that sometimes these bigger meetings are really difficult to do the smaller group work, and that you can do the bigger meetings, but really focused meetings where people can show up with and have the tutorial, the one-on-ones. I would highly suggest those. The idea that there's going to be maybe two repositories. I know for sure one repository, but I think given the distances, maybe two repositories would make sense, the community college and maybe the south side, and I don't know where else. Commissioner.
We have a library at the La Cienega at the La Cienega Community Center. I think there should be a repository right there in the community.
Yep.
That library was paid for with county dollars, and that is a place where a repository belongs. So that would be perfect.
Yep, more the better. All right, with that, to the panelists, I know there was a whole lot of questions that we didn't get to, but we got to, I think, some of those key ones, that there was a lot of momentum in the notes that we got. As I said earlier, 101 questions came in that we could never have done in this format, so that you had that concentrated time. To NMED, to the city, to the Department of Health isn't here, to the National Guard, federal and local, really appreciate your time, and I know you'll make yourselves available for more at different times, hopefully smaller focused meetings. The pop-ups work well for quick testing perhaps. So NMED, so thank you all for your time, really appreciate it. All right, drive carefully. All right, are you here for a few minutes and people might come up and talk to you? You can.
Thank you, Rosemary.
You're welcome. I did a couple of meetings in Mora San Miguel, and it showed.